Happy Friday, Econ students. Time for some feedback on yesterday's FRQ, Review FRQ number 7. Don't forget, if you have any questions, shoot me emails. And also, I've been posting the College Board reviews. You should definitely be checking those out as a way of reviewing the old stuff. So, get right to it. Assume that a country's economy is operating at less than full employment. And you don't have to draw graphs for this, but it helps. Okay, so there we are at less than full employment. Okay, as you can see, remember this little triangle there? That's that recessionary gap. Okay, so here's full employment on long-run aggregate supply. We are to the left. Okay, we're kind of like where we are right now, where they just announced today that unemployment had gone up to 14.7%. Yikes. Okay, so recessionary gap, where this would be like 5% unemployment. Here we are at 14% unemployment. We're below full or less than full employment. Assume that policymakers take no policy action, laissez-faire theory. Okay, we're just going to let it fix itself. Okay, and we'll talk about, remember, how it fixes itself. And the prices and wages are flexible, meaning they can change. They're not sticky. Explain what will happen to each of the following. Wages and input prices. Well, remember, if we do nothing in a recession, okay, where you have high rates of unemployment, okay, wages tend to go down. Main reason being, as I said many times in the past, beggars can't be choosers. Okay, if it's one of those things where, let's say for me, every teaching job is filled, okay, and there are no teaching openings, I would probably, I have to feed my family, I would probably go to maybe accept a position for less money, okay, simply because, hey, I need the money and I need food on my table and things like that. Beggars can't be choosers. So what ends up happening is wages and input prices fall too, because as factories close, as trucking firms close, those input prices like oil and corn and things like that, there's less demand for them, so they fall as well. So wages and input prices would decrease. When wages and input prices decrease, this is the mechanism for the economy fixing itself, because if it's cheaper to make, remember, cardinal rule, if it's cheaper to make, we will make more. So if wages and input prices fall, short-run aggregate supply shifts to the right. And that's how we get back to long-run aggregate supply. That's how we get back to full employment. Yet if we do nothing, I'm not suggesting this is what we should do right now in the midst of the current pandemic recession, but it's an option that's out there. Keynesians would definitely not agree, and they think the government has tried to intervene by boosting aggregate demand. But this is how it would fix itself if we did nothing. So basically, based on that, what happens to the following things? You don't have to draw a graph, but it might help to visualize. So unemployment rate, if aggregate supply shifts to the right, real output increases, so we're going to need more workers. Unemployment rate would go down. As you can see here, price level went from PL1 to PL2. Okay, so the price level went down. Output, real GDP went from Y sub 1 back to full employment. Real output went up. Part B, assume that instead of taking no policy action, the government implements a special tax incentive to encourage individuals to increase savings for retirement. Explain how the real interest rate is affected. Well, real interest rates, or nominal interest rates, we're dealing with the money market. Real interest rates, we're dealing with the loanable funds market. So, loanable funds here really quick. Loanable funds, real interest rates, you have your supply of loanable funds, demand for loanable funds. If we're in this situation where the government taxes our savings less, in a situation like that, or they're taxing our financial investments less, we are going to save more. And remember, supply of loanable funds, savers and foreigners in particular lurk up there. If any of them are injecting more money into our commercial banks, supply of loanable funds increases. So supply of loanable funds increases. Looks like that. If supply of loanable funds increases, interest rates fall from I1 to I2. So real interest rates would decrease. And then based on that, part C, one thing that you just have to be prepared for with these FRQs is it's going to be A, then B, then C, and they all kind of follow the same trajectory. So If you get those if you have a problem with the early part of the questions, that's going to lead to a chain reaction for later. Real interest rates decrease. Well, how will aggregate supply be affected in the long run? So asking what happens to Larousse. Remember, real interest rates go down. Okay, that's going to help investment. Businesses will borrow more. Businesses will buy more equipment, machinery, build more factories. That, in the short run, all affects aggregate demand. Okay, so aggregate demand would go up because businesses are spending more. Okay, that's the short run. The question here is, how will it affect aggregate supply in the long run? So basically, how will it affect Larousse? Well, if businesses are building more factories and purchasing more capital goods and things like that, all of that in the long run will push Larousse to the right. So at the end, long run aggregate supply will increase. Okay, so one of the things with part C, which is why some of you missed it, is asking about the long run. Short run, more business spending equals an increase in aggregate demand. In the long run, because businesses have invested so much in production, that will shift long run aggregate supply to the right and lead to economic growth. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll post our last FRQ for the week in a few minutes. And I hope you have a good weekend, and we'll see you again on Tuesday.